Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email me, tmosso@thewatchbox.com. It's in the description below. Your purchase and pricing email question line for buying this or any watch you see on any of our platforms. Please reach out to me directly. My email address is tmosso@thewatchbox.com for pricing. Today we are discussing a watch that originally launched back in the late 2013 period for the 2014 model year. To a lot of folks, the watch you're looking at here is the Left Hand PAM 372. It's not quite that. It's got an identity of its own and a wonderful story to tell. This is the Panerai Luminor 1950 Destro 3 days PAM 557. It is a watch that is, in many regards, the lefty to own if you like a simple, stripped-down two-hand Panerai Luminor. So, on my wrist, which is 16 centimeters in circumference, we're going to get a sense of the size. This is the Luminor 1950 case, 47 millimeters in diameter in stainless steel. It's a fairly thick watch. It's 16.6 millimeters, and you can see how dramatically domed and boxed that plexiglass crystal is. From lug to lug, it's 57.2 millimeters across the wrist with a 26 millimeter spacing in between the lugs. Throwing it on my wrist now, the 16 centimeter circumference wrist. I actually like this. It's too big. I mean, if we're just going by the lugs overlapping the edge of my wrist, then you could see here, as well as here, that the lugs are over the edge. But with a Panerai watch, oftentimes, that's the look. It's supposed to be too big. It's remarkably secure, and it wears almost square, like it's 47 by 47, and the lugs don't count the way lugs normally count on a watch because they're so spare. These things were never designed to look proportional, so unless you've got a shack-sized wrist, you're gonna have to be a little bit comfortable with the idea that the watch is oversized and very visible, and it's gonna be visible even if your wrist is bigger than mine. Now, the strap is a lovely piece. By the way, if you're wondering about the cuff shot, no, absolutely not. The strap. Modern Panerai piece, striations, evacuated material on both sides means it's a very flexible strap. You got the Hershey bar style lettering there and a large satinated steel trapezoidal buckle. The watch features screws and bars for fixing the strap. This is the Panerai old school way that a lot of purists prefer. It's not cheap like the spring bars that started to proliferate after about 2015. So with your screwdrivers at home, you're set for strap swapping. With Panerai, there are so many aftermarket and OEM options, you will never exhaust the choices. And full custom is always on the table if there's a design, a color, or a material that hasn't been done before. Taking a quick look at the hardware, it's all about the crown guard. Cover it up, you know what make, you know what model. It is beyond iconic. There is no other crown guard that is this distinctive. Developed in the 40s and implemented in the 50s, the idea behind the locking lever was that back when these cases encompassed manual wind movements from Angelus and Rolex Côte d'Ivoire, you'd have to wind the watch constantly. And so constantly threading a Rolex Oyster crown in and out would wear down the seals. And remember, in the era of the Panerai 3646, the cases, the crowns, the sealing system were all made by Rolex. Those were Rolex Oyster cases and manual wind watches. So Panerai wanted to come up with a way that you could lock and unlock the crown without the constant threading in and out. And so a cam system that would compress the seal was the solution. Now, this watch features a modern innovation, which is that little runner bearing inside the lobe of the cam, so the action is a lot smoother. And it's also easier to open and unlock this crown with just your fingernails when you're wet, sweaty, or gloved, whereas screwing out a really tight screw-down crown with wet hands or gloved hands can be a pain. Also, it's very easy to miss a screw-down crown that's threaded out 1 or 2 turns. That might drown your watch. This is a lot harder to miss, and there's another practical benefit, which is that even a perpendicular blow can't damage your crown, whereas with a conventional set of crown guards, the crown is still open to a direct hit. That's not the case here. In terms of water resistance, well, they're nice enough to tell you right on the back, 100-meter water resistance. But when you open the crown, you can immediately wind the watch. You can pull the crown out and activate the time zone function, which allows you to move the hour hand without also displacing the minute hand, great for travelers. You pull it out to its second stop, which allows you to set everything in sync. Now that we got the lay of the land there, let's take a look. We've got a polished conical bezel surrounding a dramatically domed plexiglass. Again, vintage is the effect they're going for, and the historic Panerai watches would have had plexi or thermoplastic glass-like crystals. Taking a quick look, you can see that it has the wonderful off-axis distortion of a thermoplastic, And then the dial is a sandwich, which means you got a stencil featuring the indices and the quarter Arabic numerals. And that's placed on top of a solid disc of lume, creating a three-dimensional effect, but also a wonderful otherworldly look in the dark. Now, this one has photina, or simulated patina, designed to look like radium or tritium lume that's degraded over time. We also have rose gold hands at center. The lume, however, is as bright as the brightest shades of superluminova, so you don't lose anything. You can see why those depth effects on the stencil dial are really cool in the dark. Flip it all over, caliber P3000. It's one of these Panerai manufacture movements, and it's a twin barrel manual wind with a 72-hour power reserve. Because of the two barrels, you get a very even torque release, so you have a flat torque curve. From the very beginning to the very end of the mainspring wind, you have consistent timekeeping. That, just as much as the long power reserve, is the advantage of having two barrels. Now, it's a 3 hertz beat rate, so 21,600 vibrations per hour. It pivots on 21 joules. It's made to be a robust caliber, and you can tell due to the presence of a full dual-anchored balance bridge and a free-sprung balance for shock tolerance. You can also see that although it doesn't have a very high beat rate, it has an enormous high inertia balance wheel that helps to keep excellent time even in the face of bumps and concussions on the wrist. The style of this movement is designed to be evocative of the kind of pocket watch movements that powered Panerai watches historically, either the Angelus SF240 or the Rolex Codebert 618, which is why we have two bridges that are split in the center, but they're designed to read as one, like a pocket watch 3/4 style bridge. You can also see we have this brushed finish that's evocative of the way those movements were often finished, although this machine finish, mechanical though it is to a much higher aesthetic standard than anything a Italian frogman of the 30s through 1980s would have experienced. You do have a machined bevel on the edge of the bridges, polished screws, there's engine turning on the base plate, and satination on the wheels. It is a good-looking movement. You have the little 1970s style OP logo right there. And this one has an R code, so if you work out how this works, Q was 2015, so R is 2016, and this would have been one of 800 of these made in 2016. Reach out to Team Mosso at thewatchbox.com for purchase and pricing details.